In the 1970s, flexible polyurethane foam had made its way into thousands of products, replacing cotton, latex foam rubber, springs, and other materials. The foam industry was made up of nearly 200 manufacturers then, ranging from major rubber companies to small entrepreneurs wanting to take advantage of a growth market. While it was always understood that foam was combustible and would burn, the industry's growth and expansion into a spectrum of applications meant that the material was placed into situations that were not always ideal. A series of widely publicized fires created scrutiny of the foam industry, and regulators began looking closely at foam products and how they were marketed. The foam industry was forced to spend millions of dollars, change warning advisories on products, and battle negative and often inaccurate publicity. In addition, states were initiating a variety of regulations regarding foam, such as California's Technical Bulletin 117 in 1975, which meant that the flexible polyurethane foam sold in the state had to meet an entirely different specification from the rest of the nation. The industry was at a crossroads, and some wondered if it could survive. The Society of the Plastics Industry, a trade association representing a spectrum of plastic and chemical manufacturers, had a foam division, but it covered not just flexible foam but rigid polyurethanes, latex foams, and other applications. And since SPI was funded primarily by chemical companies, foam manufacturers didn't always feel that their interests were considered over those of much larger corporations. So in 1980, a meeting was held at the Hilton Hotel in Chicago, with 5 of the largest foam producers coming together along with representatives from major chemical companies to chart a path forward. The industry leaders at that meeting included Dennis Peterson of Future Foam, Robert Hay of Foamex, James Hollers from Lear Sigler, Michael Blair of General Foam, and Donald Ballou of Scott Foam. Also attending was Lou Peters of Union Carbide Corporation, a major supplier of polyols for foam production. Peters, who after retiring from Union Carbide would go on to become PFA's second executive director, recalled the situation.
Met with all of the flexible foam manufacturers who were willing to come together. It was in Chicago, and we were trying to convince them to become part of SPI, and they said, no, we want to go our own way.
The fact that the meeting happened at all was profound, because these were very fierce competitors with strong personalities used to working on their own. But they understood that the flexible foam industry was dealing with forces that would be impossible to control individually, and that their cooperation would be vital for the industry to continue. The Flexible Polyurethane Foam Manufacturers Association, the group's first name, which was eventually changed to the Polyurethane Foam Association, was born. But how to organize? Because carpet underlay was a key market for flexible foam. Many foam producers were already members of a trade association called the Carpet Cushion Council. Its executive director, David Lipton, had retired from the automotive industry, so he had some understanding of other foam applications and knew how to structure a trade association. PFA's first headquarters location was where Lipton resided in Livonia, Michigan. As PFA began to come together, one early critical decision was to select a legal counsel who understood regulatory issues and could advise the new association on how to approach them. In a Detroit meeting, foam producers were introduced to James T. McIntyre, a Georgian native who had served in President Jimmy Carter's cabinet as the 24th director of the Office of Management and Budget. McIntyre's ability to understand both the foam industry and the federal regulatory process proved to be an immediate asset, and he continues in the role of PFA's legal counsel 40 years later. Even he marveled at the forces that led to the creation of PFA.
Well, the PFA has been very fortunate in that it's had senior executives from its members participate on the board of directors and in leadership positions with the organization. These individuals were in a position to make decisions on the various issues that confronted the organization. They were also visionaries in that they could see what was down the road, what might happen in the future, and they were willing to address those future issues with immediate and aggressive decisions.
Soon the new association was attracting more members, foam manufacturers, chemical suppliers, equipment producers, and others with a stake in the flexible foam industry. The energy and entrepreneurial spirit of the founding members created a very proactive environment within PFA, with members aggressively tackling industry challenges. In its first 5 years, PFA would become active in reviewing potential flammability and environmental regulations and making substantial comments on behalf of the industry. To expand the industry's access to technical information, PFA members contributed time from some of the industry's top technical experts. People like Rick Triolo, Jerry Poole, Graham Walmsley, and Dr. Herman Stone, who took on the role of directing many of PFA's technical activities. PFA also started a proactive public relations program to highlight the benefits of flexible polyurethane foam and fire safety. A series of television public service announcements distributed to television stations helped people picture a world without the comfort of foam, with future series focusing on the primary cause of fires involving upholstered furniture, smoldering cigarettes. In 1986, David Lipton retired and Lou Peters became the association's second executive director. Peters, considered one of the foam industry's most innovative thinkers, had taken early retirement from Union Carbide and was still energetic and dedicated to helping the flexible foam industry move forward. Peters began by enhancing the association's organization and program structure, putting PFA on a more sound financial footing. His technical expertise and industry relationships also helped PFA focus on not just immediate issues, but to look forward at other challenges coming in the future. Instead of the industry being in a defensive position, it was now organized and responsive enough to get ahead of many issues, dispelling misinformation before it created unnecessary problems. When Peters took over at PFA, he reached out to an advertising executive he'd worked with at Union Carbide. Bob Ludica of Tennessee's J.P. Hogan & Company was hired as the new communications counsel. Ludica brought a wealth of knowledge about the furniture and flooring industries, along with experience working with foam producers and chemical suppliers. 17 years later, Ludica would take over Peters' position as PFA executive director when Peters retired in 2004. Bob Ludica's career with PFA would ultimately last more than 30 years. By the end of the 80s, PFA was established, active, and engaged on many levels and issues. PFA had begun compiling a database on foam workers' health, particularly in instances of occupational asthma, which, because of plant safety procedures, was lower than instances in the general population. PFA also announced that it would voluntarily discontinue the use of chlorofluorocarbons as auxiliary blowing agents in accordance with the Montreal Protocol guidance on protecting the Earth's ozone layer. The association had built relationships with other industry associations, such as the American Home Furnishing Alliance, the International Sleep Product Association, the Business and Institutional Furniture Manufacturers Association, the Carpet Cushion Council, the American Chemistry Council, and even groups such as the International Association of Fire Marshals and the National Fire Prevention Association. The association was living up to expectations.